Welcome back to Inbound Unbound. This is part 2 of our conversation on loop marketing and strategic planning for 2026. This part will be more focused on the strategic planning for 2026 part of that. If you haven't watched part 1, go watch it. We talk about Katy Perry. She did not go to the moon. Very sorry about that. We introduce Holly. So pop back there. We're going to keep it rolling on this side. If you're lacking context, part 1 is where you need to go. So we're going to dive right in. Holly, in your view, how does the marketing landscape shift around 2026 and how might loop mindset help organizations stay relevant?
I think the idea of continuous improvement, it's something that's baked into what we do, but might not be as ubiquitous as we think it is.
Right?
So we follow a Scrum-Ban philosophy here, which is a combination of Scrum and Kanban. So that brings us all sorts of ceremonies and methodologies surrounding continuous improvement, inspect and adapt cycles, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think we're going to see, hopefully, a rise in that becoming more ubiquitous in the marketing landscape because now Loop has given the people has given the language to agencies and marketers that might not have been introduced to that before. And the reason I say that is because sometimes Josh, our CRO, will be in the sales cycle talking to people who have an agency and they're like, we get no reports, we have no idea what they're doing, we have no idea where our budget is going, and we're just like, how are they doing anything? And I think that will start to become less and less and less acceptable, especially now that we have tools that can help with reporting, all that kind of stuff. So I think that will change the marketing landscape as of Loop. And then what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
And how might it help people stay relevant?
I think that's how.
Yeah, I think you answered it too.
Cool.
But
What do you think?
I think it's so hard because, again, we talked about it a lot in part 1. It's baked in.
Yeah.
It's baked into what we're doing. But I do like this idea of failing faster. I think it might make our clients a bit more engaged with the reporting. For a long time, we've been reporting. Some clients, again, super engaged, super great questions. There are times where we pull reports, and as an agency, they're happy that we're looking at it. But again, our clients wear so many hats. It's not because they don't care. It's not because they don't understand or can't understand. It's just, oh, good, I'm glad someone is looking at this and are bringing it to me. And if there are any areas of concern, those are, of course, communicated. But I think it'll make people care more about reporting, which makes me very happy. But it also gives us an amazing opportunity to update our reporting.
Yeah.
What do our reports look like now in 2026 versus what they've looked like in the past? How can we standardize it? Yes, but also make sure that we're leaving room for unique reporting, tailored reporting to our clients. Where can we differentiate that and make sure that we're getting the data that we need to inform those decisions in quarterly strategies and annual strategies, things like that.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I think another thing that we should consider is for clients who are still immature in their digital marketing journey, maybe they haven't fully built that foundation and are low on the pyramid. I was like, how can I work in you showing us the triangle?
You'd think I would know exactly what page the triangle is on. I don't.
That's okay. I wouldn't expect you to.
Can we get a Zoom, Paul? Oh no, my nails aren't done. The people are gonna know. So this is what we refer to as Holly's hierarchy of inbound marketing. And what Michaela is referring to here is the pyramid and the idea that in order to have like really good sales, really good web ops, things like that coming in consistently, you have to have a strong foundation first. So it's non-negotiable to have a good website. It's non-negotiable to have a CRM to get this type of data. It's non-negotiable to have your branding cohesive. Because otherwise there's no point working on your marketing. Like you're not going to put, a brand new oven in a kitchen with a crumbling floor. So you're saying for clients who are more on like the lower,
Yep.
like the foundational levels.
Foundational levels or just starting to build awareness, is emphasizing a loop risky or premature?
I think transparency helps. So I think showing this, I think showing strategies, I think showing documents that demonstrate where we're going and where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, as a part of our onboarding, we do audits, we do kind of that assessment of like, here's where you are, here's what we recommend. So I think that transparency where it's like, this is the philosophy of loop marketing, this is what we're working towards, this is what we want, this is where we're integrating it, whether it's like a trade show loop, a customer feedback loop, like whatever that looks like. And just explaining where they're at in that process and why it's important to build things deliberately and strategically and not put the rocket on the horse.
Right.
Or the cart.
Back to the rocket, or a rocket on a squirrel. This could be great.
You don't want to put a rocket on a squirrel. That low key was like a very good metaphor though. Because sometimes that's what it feels like, is like if we're being too jumpy and even like to the point of squirrel chasing or like non-evergreen production, it can feel like when something like this is introduced, when there's a new tool, when there's a new technique, when there's a new technology, we're already squirrel chasing, and then it is like putting a rocket on a squirrel. And now like, but really, that is what it feels like.
It is.
So I want to make sure you're putting the juice where it needs to be.
Exactly. When we talk about the rocket on the squirrel,
Paul is like, Jesus.
he said we should.
So metaphors. Hey.
The only thing I can picture when we say rocket on the squirrel is, did you ever watch Hoodwinked?
Oh my God. That's the one with like, Schnitzel.
Yes. And there's that little, there's the little squirrel, and it drinks a cup of coffee and has all the dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks really fast. It's like dynamite. That's how it says dynamite. Yeah, that's all I can think about.
Okay, there's a video on YouTube by this man named Mike's Mike, and it breaks down Hoodwinked.
Oh wow,
it's so good. We'll drop a link in the description.
I was gonna say we should tag. Like, how can we get him involved?
100% will. We are just trying to be as prolific on YouTube as Mike's Mike. But yes, it can feel that way. Especially, can we talk about websites for a minute?
Yeah.
Here's something that I almost said a cuss.
That's okay. You can cuss.
Here's something that chaps my ass. Okay.
I'm glad it was that cuss.
There's a lot of talk about websites not being relevant anymore, or search not being relevant. And in my short 8 years, everything is dead, right? Like organic social media is dead. Social media is dead. Email is dead. And so now it's like websites, search are dead. Pray tell, how is anyone in a B2B context making a decision or learning about your company? I understand that they may be spending less time on your website. They may be spending less time reading articles, reading awareness stage articles, whatever, because they can get some of that info right from ChatGPT. But when they cite the source, the website is there. Or when it's like, after they learn about whatever you've posted about and they're like, okay, what are some good companies that provide this?
Right.
You're going to come up. Where are they going? Oh, is it your website?
Right. And also, the only way that you're showing up there is if you have a good, reputable website with strong domain authority, all of the things that we've built up to for now. So I couldn't agree more. And my biggest hard eyes after the HubSpot talk was the fact that they added AI referral traffic into HubSpot for tracking, because I, for the entire year, could tell that this was happening, saw referral traffic going up, was able to click into it. But the way that it was before HubSpot added that in, sometimes it was under referral traffic, sometimes it was under other campaigns. Like, it was just spread out, and I don't know how it was coming in that way. I'm not technical enough to know, but I just know that when I was reporting it, had to kind of aggregate it from multiple sources. Having that here now really helps to show, as we said in part one, that those who have been following good inbound best practices with strong, helpful content, yes, we might be seeing dips in organic traffic from our blog articles, but we're seeing increases in conversions. And that's what I've seen pretty much across the board in my annual reporting so far is, maybe traffic did decrease a little bit. We're seeing less of that awareness stage traffic, but that quality is still there. And it's because our clients are showing up in search, people are reading and learning from them. They're seeing that source cited and they're trusting the client from that.
Yeah.
When it is time to make a decision,
Yeah.
they're coming back. Maybe they're going directly to the site. Maybe they're going to directly to the contact us site.
Right.
But again, I think how we analyze the data and we look at the data, that's shifting more so than the actual
Yes. Buying behavior.
buying behavior. We're just seeing, again, we're seeing dips in traffic, but we're seeing increases in conversions. And for most of the clients that I work with, they make that trade 100 times out of 100.
Oh, absolutely. Because really, traffic is a vanity metric. It's like important when you're building the foundation and you have no traffic.
Right.
You can't get conversions without traffic. But once you're rocking and rolling and you're mature in your marketing, like it really is just like, well, it doesn't matter if a million people are on your site if 0 of them are converting. It does start to get to that point where conversions and then your MQLs and your SQLs do really matter. So the whole idea that like focusing on your website or putting effort into it is a fool's errand in 2026 is something that I cannot stress enough. I think is just so wrongheaded. I think the way that we look at websites, the way we design websites, the emphasis on websites changes based on user behavior and understanding what it means for someone to arrive from ChatGPT versus arriving from a historic Google search versus arriving from social media, in tailoring the website accordingly. But especially if you're in a B2B sales space where nobody can buy e-commerce or aren't buying e-commerce, they're ending up on your website to contact you, period. And if they're arriving on something that is outdated, that is not functional, that does not speak to them, that is they're bouncing, they're going somewhere else.
Right.
So that foundation element is more important than ever.
Right. And I do think that that needs to be the priority first. And there can be loops within that
Yeah.
as well. We can monitor through the use of CTAs, views versus clicks and things like that. So I think you make a very good point of like, people might be trying to move away from that foundation because there's that sense that it's less important.
Yeah.
In reality, it's not any less important. It's arguably more important. What are you doing to make sure that the people, once they get to your site, are having smooth, easy conversion paths from whatever way they come to the site? And so I think the loops within that are through CTAs, through time on page, through the things that we can see, the things that we can measure. It's still loop, but it's different loops depending on where you're at in the journey.
And I think your website is also a really great place to showcase your humanity, which is especially important in a lot of spaces, obviously. But if we're going to look at it from the manufacturing lens, if AI fatigue is real. Like people have, not everybody, but a lot of people have a resentment showing up in like having to scroll past the AI overview on Google. Like some people just don't like that. And when you're going to make a buying decision, even if you're someone who doesn't mind AI in that process, you want to know that like the people that you're making this huge purchase from are there, are trustworthy. And that really is a space to build that trust and show who you are as a company and allow that to be your differentiator as well, especially in an innovative space.
Exactly. No, absolutely. I think one thing that I'd like to focus in on next is looking at how teams can build looping mechanisms into their marketing calendars and KPIs for 2026. We've talked a lot about reporting. We've talked a lot about the different stages and the foundations. What are your thoughts in terms of maybe top activities that you see really being well suited to looping mechanisms? And that could be on the service side, that could be on the marketing side, sales side. Where do you see that playing out? And then are there any KPIs that you think, again, and I think KPIs can kind of vary depending on where you're at on the pyramid.
Right.
But any across the board that you think would be especially helpful to look at, or ones that people shouldn't be distracted by.
Yeah. I think tightening that content production loop from a personnel perspective, from a process perspective, and from a tool perspective is huge because your content, and whether to you that means video, white paper, blog posts, I don't care. Whatever your content is that you want your good fit customers to consume, making sure that you have that entirety of the loop captured and flowing is huge. As I say to the team and clients all the time, because as you mentioned, sometimes marketing content especially can get deprioritized when things get busy, but the goal is to publish, not to produce.
Exactly.
So I think looking at KPIs in terms of not just output, but outcomes. What did this do for us? Where can we draw the clear line about what's working and not working? And ultimately, that's like we can't even start to talk about doing reporting until you have production.
Right.
So that I think is the place where teams really need to focus and have some honest conversations about where are our backlogs? Where do we get tripped up? Where are the friction points? Okay, if Sally Sue in engineering is the holdup on reviewing this technical content, who can support Sally Sue? Because she's an awesome engineer. She's not great at reviewing content. How do we get her some support to bust through that? So I think that's really important because you can't even start to fail fast, have data if you are not doing anything. So from the marketing side, I think that is really huge, having a deep analysis on actual productivity, because I think it's also fun to get in there and play with all the Loop tools and build all this stuff and spend time on that. But again, that's kind of rocket on a squirrel. Like, are the key components there? Are you producing? Is anything productive actually happening? So I think that's huge. And then from like a technology perspective, I think finding places where your teams can save time. So like something I'm really excited about, our revenue operations solutions developers developed this really cool road sales and service solution that uses HubSpot, Ask Elephant,
Super.
Oh my God. I was like, it's totally drawing a blank. I need more coffee. And it allows field sales to actually like record and have insights and AI fueled sentiment analysis and things like that, all through these agents that are working for them, which allows them to clock churn quicker, allows them to clock client issues, upsell opportunities, service opportunities, all working behind the scenes. I think that's really crucial to Loop as well. And so I think the theme of all of that is sort of efficiency in production and having these really honest conversations. Where are we losing time and how do we fix that? I think is important. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's what came to mind for me.
It did. And I think that's such an important area to focus on. Is we've talked a lot about the marketing aspects, the marketing implementation and implications of Loop and inbound and all of that. What we haven't talked about is smoothing those processes, making sure that things are flowing. I love that idea of making sure that the loop is flowing efficiently. I was picturing like a lazy river, maybe not so lazy, depends on the activities. But I really like that analogy that you used and the idea that that's a huge part of it, because I think that is a hot take in that it's not the direction a lot of people are going with it, but it's a direction that is a part of the loop and should be spoken about more.
Yeah. I just think like the loop isn't connected unless there's efficient production and processes, right? It's just 4 points.
Dots.
It's just 4 dots. So that's kind of what comes to mind for me. And like in thinking about the idea of like flow and motion and how it relates to marketing and revenue operations and loop and all of that, just again, I guess that's another benefit of a buzzword, right? It starts to get you thinking. Is like thinking of the idea of like there's data, making sure that your data is clean, that you're able to capture data, that you have the software, that it's feeding things behind in the background for your sales, your service, your engineers, anybody, your marketing, of course. And then from there, you have your strategy and then you have your deployment. But then that feeds back to data once you are making decisions based on that. And that is like kind of the same concept as like the triangle.
Right.
But all of like, where are our stop gaps in that? Where can we not help each other? Where do we have blind spots and how do we improve them to get that flow going?
I love that for our clients, this is going to mean their teams working more closely together.
Yeah.
Again, the clients that have seen the most success, the most positive outcomes from leads and conversions are the ones with connected sales teams that are very aware, very ingrained in the process. So I think that this forces those who don't have those processes in place yet to get those processes in place so that it is more collaborative, so that it is truly a big loop within the organization with smaller loops that feed it.
Yeah. Like the loop doesn't work with silos.
Right.
And I think that that's another groundbreaking thing in 2026 for all companies. I think that like even us, when I think about our marketing, sales, service, like how we talk to each other, how we keep those things flowing, having those, you know, honest conversations as a leadership team about where each individual department is failing the other. Like, and it needs to be like, you know, cross flowing and figuring out how we do all of that. And I think the organizations that do that will really win.
Mm-hmm. And that's super exciting. Like,
Yeah,
it's a
I think
great
so too.
opportunity for so many
Yeah.
clients, and even the ones that have it, to how do we improve? And
Yeah.
there's now so many tools to help support that.
Yes.
That's really cool and really exciting. And I
Yes.
think those tools, while many are still in their infancy or beta, they're going to get stronger. They're going to make it easier for everyone. And so that is super exciting. I also love the emphasis on data, and how now people are forced to really take a deep look at it and be very honest about the data, because that's going to help inform large scale
Yeah.
the next action, the next
100%.
decision.
100%.
Awesome.
I remember, this is just a funny anecdote. A couple of years ago, I had a client ask, she said that she was getting pressure from higher ups to explain how data-driven decisions are being made and like how a data-driven mindset is a part of it. And I remember she was like, what does this mean? And what do I say? I was like, that's what we're doing all the time. Everything we do is data-driven.
Right.
Like when we go through reports and we talk about, well, this actually brought in qualified leads, so we're going to do more of this, less of this. Like those are data-driven decisions. And I think of that moment because, like you said, marketing is not always top priority, and understandably so. So some of these concepts are new still
Mm-hmm.
to organizations.
Absolutely. And I think we touched on it a bit, but any ways that marketers can work within their organizations to encourage their sales and services to participate in closing this loop,
Yeah.
especially in manufacturing with a longer sales cycle,
Oh God.
where getting a client and keeping a client is so profitable
Yeah.
if done well.
Yeah.
So any thoughts that you had as far as how manufacturers can get sales and services teams involved with post-sale engagement when it's not always prioritized?
I think that is a place where leaning on some of the AI driven tools and like smart tools is crucial, because so much of that should be insights that a human doesn't need to glean and report. And I think that's sometimes where people get tripped up, because salespeople, service professionals, like if you're a service professional who is just on the phone with somebody for however long diagnosing and solving an issue, what is the realisticness that you're going to go to the CRM and like accurately redocument all of that? You're not. You have a pressure to and a want to solve problems. Same with sales. They want to be selling. They don't want to be in their CRM like documenting things. So I think the first place to start for like savvy marketers to help their service and sales teams is to audit the technology and figure out areas where they could be helped and where they can gain those immediate efficiencies.
Right.
And then for some of the heavier lifts that do require their insight, that do require a little bit more effort, they're bought in. They've already seen kind of the dividends pay off of approaching it with this kind of mindset. So I think that's really important, is making sure that everyone feels empowered and that their time is valuable, and you're not just approaching them, giving them another chore.
Right.
You're approaching them with a solution.
Absolutely. I think the technology is really exciting. I think that's going to be one of the key areas to excuse me.
So exciting.
I'm just so excited. All of the just all the changes. But I think moving into 2026, I think technology is a very important place to start. How are you using the tools that you already have access to?
Yeah.
I think that that's one of the areas, at least from my viewpoint, that as we're building out 2026 strategies, key area to look at.
Yep.
Any other key areas? I know we've talked a lot about the technology. We've talked a lot about smoothing out processes. We've talked a lot about making sure that we're being helpful with the content. Any other areas that you think, hey, someone's trying to work on their 2026 strategy, what's a pointer to get them in the right direction with this?
Yeah, I think something we've chatted about too is kind of the end of the flywheel or the end of the loop before you kind of start looping back around being that like customer, and how that they can feed your marketing and all of that. So making sure that some of those like softball things are in place, like calling your best soulmate client and being like, hey, would you mind going on the record about how we solved this thing for you? Make it easy for them. Write it up for them. Just have them sign it. Like those case studies, those video testimonials, because like we talked about earlier, that human element when people arrive on your website is really, really important. You worked so hard to get those customers. Have them help you effortlessly. So how can you make sure that they can talk about their amazing experience with your company in a very seamless way that you can then, use to help find other soulmate partners? I think that is a really underutilized. Like we like we said, we're always talking about net new, but how do we utilize what we already have to help us get that net new? That is just a part of the loop that I think sometimes the lazy river just dies.
Right. And with the rise of AI, the social proof and
Yes.
that trust that it builds is more important now than ever. And for most of our clients, that's going to be on their website. It's not something that someone can Reddit
Right.
their experience with it. And so I think being really intentional with that social proof, understanding like how would someone who needs that to get to the next step and to submit that form to become a true lead or a sales qualified lead, even like what would they need to know? Because those videos can be baked into the site, they can be baked into sequences that the team's using. There's just ways to use that content. And I think so, not only to your point, having that content, but making sure that it's used and accessible and in a way that feels authentic and helpful to the prospects.
Yeah, really quickly before we wrap up, I want to talk to that like solo manufacturing marketer, because a lot of times before we're brought in, that is uh it's usually one person who's in charge of everything that we just talked about here, making it run smooth. They're trying to figure out getting sales on board. They're trying to figure out getting service on board. And I think don't be intimidated by all of the elegance here and all of the processes that are put in place by an agency. Just start. And the best place to start is calling your customers and asking them, if you were to go out of business, what would they put into Google to find you? That's what you produce content around. Ask them what differentiates you from other people. Make sure that that's expressed on your website. Just start there and things will flow. Don't worry about keywords. Don't worry about that kind of thing. Just produce helpful content that is driven from ideas from your current customers, and you will win just by showing up authentically and organically as your company. And then the rest of this is just gravy that you can push down the line. That is like so important to me to get that out.
Invaluable advice.
Thank you.
Truly.
It's like how I like to end every like webinar, every lunch and learn, everything ever, because I think like this can be so intimidating. We just talked
So overwhelming.
however long, probably longer than we needed to about this. And we have all the tools, all the people. We have experts in every seat. Not every company has that. And there's still ways to win at this on a micro level. Figure out what your loop looks like.
Right.
It's not going to look like everyone else's.
And figure out what data is important to you, your team, so that you can start measuring. You don't need to measure everything all at once. Measure what you can, use that to inform your next decision and go from there. It probably feels a bit insurmountable to be the only one working on this and going into the new year and being like, okay, I have to form a strategy. What does that look like?
Yeah.
I think to your point, it's so important to do what you can and get started. The only way up is by moving forward.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Well said.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to switch gears for just 1 minute. I have a little game called Love It, Hate It, or Indifferent. Okay. I'm going to throw out some trends that relate to what we've talked about today. And you're going to tell me whether you love it, hate it, or feel indifferent. You don't need to give too much explanation. However, you're more than welcome to in areas where it is required. All right. So marketers saying inbound alone isn't enough anymore and you need to layer on something new.
Hate it. Inbound is not tactics. Inbound is a methodology and a philosophy.
Exactly. Marketing teams taking ownership of a post-sale engagement.
I hate the word ownership. I think marketing should support. So, service people may not always be the best copywriters, the best system architects. I think marketing can have a voice and can help in that, but shouldn't own it. That should be owned by service.
Short timeframes on organic content success expectations.
I would like Paul to supercut the Grinch into here because I loathe entirely. Low. Organic will take time, but it's higher quality. If you're looking for quick results, do paid. Go ahead, shovel money into Google into perpetuity because you're renting, not owning, and it takes a while to build up the authority and the ability to own something.
Beautiful. I love that. Treating customer advocacy as a core KPI in 2026 plans.
Love.
Love it. Building marketing plans that evolve continuously instead of sticking to a rigid annual calendar.
Love. That's agility.
That's agility, baby.
Yeah.
Service teams leading marketing initiatives as part of the loop.
Yeah, especially for post-sale.
Yep.
So love.
Relying on traditional metrics like SQLs and MQLs to help measure success.
I love
Yeah, I think it depends.
more so than a vanity metric, but
Yeah.
it doesn't tell the whole story because also for like more of our revenue operations solutions and projects partners, that's just like never even in the conversation. They're talking about software utilization and adoption, like that kind of thing. I think it's so case by case, and this is what we talked about in the first episode about things being too canned.
Right.
Like, so there is no. I think it needs to be customized, but I think MQLs and SQLs are so important.
Right. Love it as well, as long as it's applied well.
Asterisk.
But be smart about it. Using customer stories as primary fuel for some of our awareness campaigns.
Love.
And AI tools helping marketers personalize that delight stage.
Love. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And that is all.
Did I pass?
You passed. I agreed with everything. So
What matters? You were our director of strategy, so this is your wheelhouse. I'm just a lady you got to talk in here.
I was thrilled to talk to you. This
had
was
fun.
so much fun. Thank you, Holly, so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Anytime. I had to walk like 10 steps from my desk and I would do it in a heartbeat again.
Right. And Paul got us a plan. So I think that should be
If
called out.
viewership is up on this video, I think we can owe it to the plant.
Right. The plan is part of the loop.
Plants in 2026, love.
And
Boring backgrounds, hate.
all right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you had as much fun as I know that I did during this. If you have any questions, if you want more information, protocol80.com. And then if you have any thoughts, questions, topic ideas for us, info@protocol80.com is where you can shoot an email. And thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody. I hope they let me back soon.